Hey diary, I'm 5 days in and the job interview continues. I'll be honest, so far the darkness has been a bit frightening, but it hasn't been too bad because I still have my trusty lighter. Which is awesome, by the way. On day 6, I took a look at my mind map to try and figure out where I'd actually been, and I've walked around quite a lot actually, but there are still places not explored that I should probably check out at some point. And I need to get some food somehow, because I've been walking around picking up all the berries and carrots I can find, but I need more. And to do that, I need a science machine. And to get a science machine, I need a lot of gold and also rocks. Well, I don't need the rocks for the science machine as much, but if I get the rocks, I can build even more farms later on. By the way, when I was looking for more rocks, I found one of them icky stones again. I thought about smashing the pig heads because it felt disrespectful to just have them be there, but I didn't have a hammer, and, well, so, you know, I couldn't actually do anything about it, which was unfortunate. There's a lot of trees around, I've realized by my campfire, and bees. Trees and bees. And now, the trees, I dig them up, basically, after I chop them down. Because even though they make the best fires when I burn them on the actual tree, on the log, as it were, it's just more useful to put them in my fire pit first. Which is unfortunate, but, I mean, I have to be realistic at some point, too. Even though I would love to see the whole world burn, I might have to wait. I've done some, well, I haven't done calculations in my head actually, but I thought a bit about it, and I reckon that 1 or 2 burnt trees a day is probably good. Because I've realized that if I chop them down, they drop pine cones that I can plant, and then get new trees, which I can then burn. Or chop down to get more pine cones that I can plant, and then it's a never-ending cycle, basically, of tree burning, hopefully. I did manage to snag a butterfly catching net thing, because I figured I can probably, since there are so many bees around, catch some bees and put them in my own beehive. And I could, you know, grab butterflies, because who doesn't like to have butterflies around? I mean, I can't think of anyone that wouldn't enjoy butterflying it up a bit. I mean, I know... Yeah, I can't think of anyone. Butterflies are cool. Well, they're not cool as such, but because they don't burn for very long. But they are living creatures. Probably. Anyways, after spending a lot of time not burning trees, but rather, you know, chopping them down and making planks, I finally had most of the stuff I needed to make the alchemy machine, which in turn I need for, well, getting a few farmlands down. And as I was out exploring, I found a sleeping spider, which, you know what? Sleeping spiders are a hazard to their general area, so I did the humane thing and just trapped the darn thing. Unfortunately, it just died in my trap, which was odd, so I just dumped it. I guess I could have buried it somehow, but I didn't think of it, actually. I'll do that next time. In the afternoon, I spent a lot of time collecting poop north of my camp, because I need poop for my farmlands that I'm gonna... Holy crap, there was a lot of spiders. And once again, at first I'm like, I have a trap. I can just trap all the spiders. But then, I realized that, hang on, these spiders are actually in an area inhabited by a lot of beefalo. And it's almost beefalo mating season. And if the beefalos don't mate, then who knows what'll happen. So I did some, to the best of my knowledge, humane culling. In that I whacked the spiders on their head and they took a long dirt nap. I did this as, well, it was getting dark, which wasn't great because I love the light, but on the other hand, it did motivate me a lot to just pick up the pace. For some reason, the spiders just, you know, they didn't want to give up, really. They chased me around, but I was faster in the end. Well, I was faster from the start, too, but, I mean, actually, it got so intense in the end that I actually, well, they did hurt me a bit. Some of them managed to bite me. Now they're just tiny spider bite marks, so they can't really do much. And I know my grandma's recipe for doing some healing salves, which you use spider glands for, and incidentally, I now have a lot of spider glands. But more importantly, I have more silk, which is really good, because I need silk if I want to get more bug nets. So, having dispatched all the spiders, I decided to, well, dispatch one of the, I guess they're the spider nests? I felt it was unfair to, well, you shouldn't really eradicate spiders. They're not harmful to, well, unless you attack them, of course. But this is a world for everyone, and, you know what? I left some of them alive. I'm pretty sure the beefaloes can fend for themselves. In any case, I needed more poop. So that's what I went looking for. Unfortunately, it got super duper dark. And super duper dark meant it was kind of hard to find the poop. I mean, I did find some, because I brought the light, but still. Luckily, the beefaloes do snore quite a lot, so you can tell when you were around them, and they're lovely but filthy animals, so they tend to sleep pretty close to their poop. I saw some lovely fireflies, but unfortunately, I couldn't find my bug net in time, so I didn't catch them. When I went home later on, I realized I already had a bug net on me, but for some reason I'm like, what? The dark. The dark makes you do weird stuff. Like, really weird stuff. But hey, at least I made it home with silk, a lot of spider glands, and more importantly, most of the manure I needed for the improved farm. So you could definitely say I am now living off the land. And just as I put my first farm down, it started raining. That can't be anything other than good. Well, in the sense that my farm will probably grow. My fire might not. Shouldn't be a problem, though. Hopefully. Hopefully it's not a problem. What is a problem, though, is the fact that I don't have a crock pot yet, nor do I actually have a place for my bees. And to get the bees, I need to get bees, and then I need to harvest some honeycomb. And at some point, maybe I should get a bird cage just to refine what my farm can output. So to prep for that, I decided to build a bird cage. Well, a bird trap, rather, because I couldn't afford the bird cage. Because I needed papyrus, which I don't actually have yet, nor have I found any. It turns out I am running pretty low on, well, stuff I can put in my pockets. I may have to use some more logs to build a box of some kind to store stuff. At the moment, I'm just tossing it around my campfire, which works really well, but unfortunately looks a bit sloppy. What isn't sloppy, though, is my ability to catch bees. However, I realized something. Other bee friends may not enjoy me catching, well, their friends. It's probably because they don't know how lovely the home I'm going to build for them is going to be. But it took me a while to get all the things I needed. I had found a lovely spot for my beehive to the northeast of my camp, because there was a bunch of flowers there, and already, well, butterflies and bees seemed to enjoy the place. which, you know, that's probably great. In fact, there's actually already a bunch of butterflies there, which I caught because, well, I've discovered something pretty strange in this simulation or whatever it is. And turns out that you can just, if you grab butterflies, I mean catch them, and then just jam them into the ground, they turn into flowers. Which, I mean, it's lovely in the way that if it's almost like a love letter, I guess. But I mean, would I want to be turned into a flower if I got stuck in the ground? Maybe. I don't know how good or bad it is to be a flower, actually. And I think that's something you have to think about if you want to judge, you know, turning butterflies into flowers as a hobby. Which I'm not saying that I have, but I will admit to liking it. In fact, it's lovely. And if I could, I would do it some more. I still haven't found a good way for not, you know, making a mess of things with, when it comes to chopping down wood, because they leave stubs around that I have to dig up. Doesn't take that long, but it's annoying. It's annoying. Why can't they just burn like normal things? I had already harvested my pumpkin from my first grow, which was nice. My improved farm grows really quickly, by the way. But I didn't really know what to do with it. What I did know, though, was that I was gonna have to get a honeycomb, which it turned out was pretty easy to get, actually. There were no bees at home, so no bees were affected. And I mean, it doesn't really matter that much because I mean, I'm gonna give them a home anyways. In fact, some people, me included, might say that my beehive is actually better than their natural beehive. Now, it's not au natural. Oh, I guess it is in a sense because it's made out of wood, which is natural. It's a natural fire starter and a natural fire sustainer. But it's definite. Actually, you know what? Yes. I made the bees a lovely home. It's nicer than whatever they could have built on their own. And more importantly, it's probably going to burn way better. I mean, I'm not going to burn the beehive down as such. I don't... No. No, I'm not. I'm not going to burn the beehive down. Once again, I did find myself with some issues when it came to... well, keeping stuff in my pocket. I had built a backpack, but I took it off when I put on my protective log covering bee harvesting suit. But it did... it was... I will readily admit that it was a bit tricky to fit everything in. Because, you know, I just don't like throwing things away, I guess. I did manage to sort it out by the evening, though. But still, it took a while. But finally, at the end of day 9, I had my bee hive. Well, my bee box. Anyway, my beatbox. Note to self, learn to beatbox. Then again, it's kind of hard to write down beatbox beats. Vump, vump, wooga, wooga, wow. Doesn't really translate into text, I feel like. As soon as I put the bee box down, the bees loved it. I celebrated by planting more flowers. Hopefully, that bee box will give me a lot of honey, which would be great because I like honey. Actually, I'm not entirely sure how useful honey is, but I mean, what's the worst that can happen? In any case, I celebrated by grilling my first harvest on my farm. In the evening, though, after having collected a lot of wood, there were weird noises about, which I hadn't heard before, and it did worry me a bit. It sounded very strange. Very strange indeed. So as a precaution, I did put my bee harvesting suit back on because it does protect me a bit more than... Well, mostly I'm faster than just running around with my backpack on. The most annoying bit was actually having to wait. Finally, a doggy came, but the doggy was, well, overexcited. And I have dealt with overexcited doggies before. You just have to be really strict. So I did bop it on the nose a bit. But it had some unintended consequences. In that both him and his friend... Albeit... well... I thought they'd just lie down, have a rest, and come to their senses. I may have... unintentionally spilled their senses on the floor, as it were. Now, it wasn't something I intended, and it's not like me, and hopefully it won't look bad on the exam, but things happened. I guess I don't know my own strength. Maybe I'm way too good at building spears. Whatever it was, I knew straight away that the light was pleased, because it almost immediately thanked me by lighting part of the world on fire. And I took that as a sign that even though two doggies had met an unfortunate demise by my hand, all was right in the world, because the light had shown me the way, and I knew that I was on the right path to getting the job. Also that sooner or later the world's gonna burn, and I will be the fire starter. Yes. Non-twisted, totally straight and narrow fire starter. See you later, diary!